Hi, welcome everyone to the next interview I'm doing with Susanna Massari, who is a friend I've known for many years, and she has written an amazing book called Living Beyond Death. And I want her to hold up a copy of it because I left my copy in New Hampshire. So I just feel so honored to have you here, Susanna, because you have so much wisdom to share with people. And the whole reason I started this YouTube channel was to show people the way during difficult times. So before we get into your book, I want you to tell everyone a little bit about how you ended up becoming such a great wisdom keeper, especially around the area of death, which a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about. But your book makes it very user friendly and it's very, very comforting. So, how did you get started in all of this?
Thank you. You're so kind. You're really kind. And I feel just the way about you that you do about me. I'm just really honored to be a friend of yours. Was born into mediumship, and my experiences began around 9. And through my lifetime, they have just grown and grown and expanded and expanded. And during COVID, right before COVID, I had become a certified end of life doula. I prefer calling myself a death doula because I think we cover up and, make nice with the word death and call it end of life or passing on or crossing over and all the other pretty words. It's death. And we experience death in all kinds of ways: death of finances, death of jobs, death of relationships, and so on. So we're not unfamiliar with death. And so I had decided that since I've been doing professional readings for over 20 years now, and I was always giving information from people who have crossed over, um, non-physical entities that include guides. Sometimes if people are very entrenched in angels, the angels come through. Sometimes, what people would call, much higher beings, which is what I prefer to call them. A lot of people call them ETs. And so it all depends on who comes through to give information for the person who's sitting for a reading.
Hmm.
And I I consider my readings soul readings, and that I get to the heart of things just like you do with your astrology readings, which I was fortunate enough to have 2 of. The first one, you just knocked it out of the ballpark. I was just floored with the information that you gave me, and you didn't know anything about my life. And so I was wondering what it would be like to be with dying people and to companion them through the most important event of their life, and experiencing their own death. And so I became certified end of life doula. And so I volunteered with hospice for 4 years.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit and we weren't allowed to see patients anymore. I worked mostly with the elderly and Alzheimer's in the Alzheimer's units at nursing homes. And I saw and experienced so much. And being with someone, it's an honor to be with someone as they're leaving. This makes me tear up. As they're leaving this world. And they have given me, the people that I sat with, the people that I have visited in the nursing homes, they either have come back to give me information, they've come back in my dreams for visitations, or they have given me experiences as they cross over,
Wow.
which is called shared crossing. It's a shared crossing experience. And I've had 2 of those. And they're extraordinary. And there's a website that deals with this. Raymond Moody, who who coined the phrase near-death experience, also coined the term shared crossing. And he has a lot of information about shared crossing. There's also a website called Shared Crossing Project. They've put a book out with
Mm,
all kinds of personal stories of people and their experiences. And then COVID happened and we weren't allowed to see people. And I have had this book within me for probably 50 years, but I never knew what I should write about. I've had extraordinary experiences in my life and done a lot of extraordinary things. And I had no idea what I should write about. And then when I became a death doula, it became clear to me and all of the experiences I was having. So I started the book out as a doula book, as a doula
mhm,
reference book, and it took on a life of its own and went into consciousness of animals, the art of dying. I have, besides the art of dying, there's 2 chapters dedicated to doula work and uh, dreams, imagination, and dimensions. Just it just went off because people, to understand life and to understand themselves, first need to understand about energy and how energy works and their own consciousness, because consciousness and energy is the same thing. They feed off of each other, so they power each other.
mm.
And so the book goes very deeply into understanding energy and understanding ourselves and be to to face our traumas, to face painful memories, painful events, and not shy away from them. We call them, thanks to Carl Jung, we call that the shadow side. And I know that uh, what I like about the information that you give people is that you dive into patterns and patterns
Right.
that people have. And I love that because there are all kinds of I'm getting goosebumps talking about that.
Mm.
It's we repeat patterns. There's patterns that we're not aware of. The universe has patterns, and I when I've listened to you on podcasts and talking about your astrological readings, and you go into patterns, it's very, very important to understand our own patterns.
Right, but what you do in your book is that you give people an introductory guide to understand that this world that we live in, it has a system and there is an order to it, and
Mhm.
everything has a design, including death and how
Mhm.
people. Can you explain to people who think that when they die that that's it, that there's nothing more? There are a lot of people who think that. There are a lot of people who are terrified of death.
Yes,
What can you tell
yes.
people just during this interview that might give them some comfort other than reading your book and learning all about it? But
They we all come into this life with a design, and we make agreements, and I don't like using the word contracts
Mhm.
because there's always change that's happening. And so with free will, we have the ability to change any pattern. We have the ability to change any agreement. Um, we also have the power to change the trajectory of our own death. But this happens on a very, very, very deep, unconscious and subconscious level. This is not a conscious choice. So I'm going to change the way I die. You can set yourself up for your perfect death. And I give you an exercise on how to do that. And um, people may say, well, that's ridiculous. You can't, only God knows how you're going to die, and so forth. What you can do is you can, instead of imagining the worst, is to imagine the best and what your perfect death would look like. would it be dying in your sleep, in the arms of a loved one? Would you like to have time to take care of all of the necessary things and to say goodbye? You can practice this, and there's no harm in doing that. It's better to think that way than to think doom and gloom and I'm going to be so ill and I'm going to lose my mind and just stay away from the negativity. So we come into this life with a design. We choose our circumstances, we choose our parents, we choose challenges. I don't like using the word lessons. I prefer using challenges instead, because when you think of lessons, it's like, some people think about karma and karma's going to get me. I go in deeply into what I believe karma is, and it's not what most people believe it is. And I can give an example of a reading that I did. I actually did 3 readings. I was involved with a church here in town, a metaphysical church, and I wasn't involved with the church. I just was asked to come to do their psychic fairs, and so I think I did that 3 or 4 times. And I saw the same woman each time I was there. And each time she was very concerned over her husband because her husband was an alcoholic and died of alcoholism. And he was an atheist, and she was very concerned about him. And with each reading, he gave her a little bit more information. Every time he said he was fine, he was fine. In the 3rd reading that I did with her, and he came through, he explained to her that being an atheist, he thought he was not going to exist anymore. That was his belief system, that was it. Once you die, you disappear. And he was explaining to her that when he died, because of his belief, he found himself in nothingness. And he stayed in this nothingness for whatever period of time, because there's no time on the other side. Not like our time. 40 years our time could be 3 seconds in their time. They have no time. So he was explaining that he was in this nothingness. And all of a sudden he realized he was still alive. And then his reality completely changed. And everything came flooding in for him, his life and what he could do with his life. And it was, sometimes I feel like I get more out of a reading than the person does, you know, because I get all of their feelings. I get their thoughts, because everything is telepathic. So I get their feelings. I can get physical feelings, like if someone um, died of a gunshot wound, I might get pain, in the head or something, or if they had a brain aneurysm, I would get an extreme headache right in that area of my head. So there's physical sensations. So there is nothing to fear death. Death itself is not painful. The physical body may feel pain, but there is no pain in death itself. Now, the shared crossing experiences that I had, there was a woman that I only saw twice. She had Alzheimer's, had it for years. She had a very hard life. Um, Her jobs didn't pay very well. She had 1 son, and she was very frail, and she was contracting her body. Her muscles were contracting. She was extremely thin. And whenever I went in to see her, she would kiss my hand and blow kisses to me as I was leaving. And I just sat there and talked to her, and she just, instead of talking back or mumbling or anything, all she did was kiss my hand. So when I sat vigil, she was my very first vigil, when I sat vigil for her, and her daughter-in-law was there also. And her daughter-in-law and I had been, I was on one side of the bed, her daughter-in-law was on the other side of the bed, and we had been talking about her, and I learned about her life. She was deaf, and she had come to that through age, and she couldn't at the time afford hearing aids, so she learned to read lips.
No.
And so when she took her last breath, she took me with her as she crossed over, as we call it. And it was the most extraordinary experience. She reverted back to the age of 12, where she was in complete health. Uh, she had bad knees, so her body was in perfect health. 12 years old, you don't have responsibilities that adults do.
No.
So she reverted back to 12, which was a good time for her. And she was running through this field of yellow flowers. Now, there were flowers that I recognized, and there were flowers that did not come from this dimension, did not come from our world. And there were mountains in the background, there was forests on either side, and she was running through this field of flowers towards her father. Now, I felt her father. I didn't see him. He did not communicate to me. And she was running toward him. And as she was running through this field of beautiful, beautiful flowers, the colors were so vibrant, not like we have here. They were like 1,000 times more vibrant. But she wasn't leaving a path, you know, how you would if you're running through
Right.
grass and flowers. There was no path like that. So none of the flowers were disturbed as she was running. And so that was, um, I was just, it still affects me. And I talk about it every time I talk to somebody about this. And it's just, it was just such an honor that this woman was so kind to me personally,
To give you that gift.
to give me
Because
that
it's not
gift.
that common. In fact, I don't know anyone who's ever had that experience. Do you know many people?
No,
Yeah.
no, no, I don't. The second one I had was a gentleman that I had never met. I just went to the nursing home to relieve his son so his son could, who was sitting vigil, could go to lunch. And this gentleman, he was an older gentleman, and his wife was gone for the weekend because she was attending a family funeral.
Mhm.
And uh, he he had just, when I went there, he had just had a bath, a bed bath. They had changed his clothes, they had shaved him, and he was very comfortable. And so his son had left for lunch. And um, when I talked to the gentleman, he was unconscious. He was not conscious, but unconscious people can hear you. They still can hear you. And so I was talking to him and I told him, I said, your wife has gone for the weekend to another family funeral. She will be back here to see you on Monday. And your son has gone to lunch. And my name is Susanna, and I'm sitting here with you to keep you company while he's gone. After I said that, he immediately went into the dying process where they do the rapid breathing.
Mm.
And um, it was almost like, I don't want to say permission, but it was almost like he felt that he could die alone. And there are a lot of people that would prefer dying alone because they don't want to traumatize the family, or they're just stubborn.
Mhm.
And I've seen people over a 2-week period say, do energy work and give them permission, uh, give the person, aromatherapy, massage therapy, it's okay, you can go to the light. They're just stubborn and they don't want to. And I've heard that from them, and um, I will die when I expletive feel like it. so, so anyway, this gentleman, I had called the nurse, who was hospice nurse, and she was there in the nursing home that day. And I texted her and I told her that he was dying, and that, to come to the room. And so he had passed. He had taken his last breath. He had passed, and I felt a presence behind me. I mean, a really, really strong presence behind me. And I thought it was the nurse had come in, and I turned
Right.
around to talk to her,
And
and
it wasn't her.
it wasn't her. He was dressed in the outfit they had put him in, and he was walking through the door of his room. He was walking out. And there's a section in the book where I give, all these superstitions, and one of the superstitions is, either leave the door open or the window open so the spirit can leave. I realized that day when I saw him walking out the door, that this is how misconceptions and myths start, because of not understanding what's really going on. And this gentleman was walking through the door. The physical reality that we were just in, and that I was still in, no longer existed for him.
Mhm.
So he was already in a different dimension. He had already crossed over. It only appeared to me that he was going out the door. I
Right.
don't know where he went. He didn't show me that. But for me, because, I'm so focused in on this reality, he gave me a glimpse of his crossing.
Wow.
And that was him leaving out the door. But the room no longer existed for him. He was already where he was meant to go, or where he wanted to go. So I always encourage people to explore their fear of death. And
How would they do that?
it's all mapped out in the book.
Right.
But you take a look at your belief system first,
Okay.
your beliefs about death. And do you believe that you're going to get Alzheimer's? Do you believe that you're going to be decrepit and you can't take care of
Yeah.
yourself and you're going to be a burden? Take a look at those feelings, take a look at those things. And everyone, we have free will. We have amazing power within us to create our reality. And we create our reality with thoughts, feelings, um, beliefs, and imagination. And some people choose that we don't have control at all. I also don't like using the word control. I like using the word command. It's like we need to have more command of our emotions. We need to have more command over how we believe. We need to have more command over our thoughts. And this is not to say that we need to control ourselves, or to be, um, checking ourselves with every single thought. Don't burden yourself with that. Live your life, and live it to what you believe is your fullest potential. And there is nothing but peace and love that's waiting for you. I've seen it through the readings. I've had personal experiences, transformative experiences. I've had a glimpse. I haven't ever had a near-death experience, but I have had experiences where I have seen some of the same things that people have seen during their near-death experiences. And it's extraordinary. We are just a portion of our true selves, who is here in a physical body in this game of life. And I call it a game because it really is a game. It's a
Right.
serious game sometimes, a very
Right.
serious game. but we all play roles, and we are here to not work out any karma, not to learn lessons, not to do this. We make choices about what our challenges are going to be, and we're here to learn about energy, and we're here to learn about ourselves and how there's just so much more to who we are than we believe. And we are just a sliver, and I promise everyone this. We are saying just a sliver of who we truly are. And everyone is what I would call ancient. You are timeless. You are absolutely timeless because there is no beginning to you and there is no end to you. And your consciousness, and I'm getting choked up with this, your consciousness survives physical death. And it's extraordinary.
Do you think that we all come back, or are there some of us who don't have to come back?
There's free will again. You don't ever have to come back. You are never forced to come back. But I do firmly believe in reincarnation because how I explain things to people in my readings is especially about family dynamics. To take, imagine a group of, um, oh God, I can't, grapes.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can think of the word. That's good.
Yeah,
You found
senior
it.
moment.
That's all right.
Think of a cluster of grapes, and that we come in reincarnational cycles. So as a family, let's say, take your family, um, large family, small family, whatever it is, and the dynamics of your family. And imagine a cluster of grapes, and we come in with a cluster of lives where we might have several lifetimes within the same family, but we exchange roles.
Okay.
Like next time my son might be my mother.
Mhm.
We all change roles because we're helping each other. And that's the extraordinary thing, is that everyone in spirit, I don't care who has come through for me, the message is always about love, and it's always about growth, and it's always about helping one another. And so we take on different roles in a family dynamic to have certain experiences and certain challenges. And then once that cycle is over, then who knows what comes next. There, I'm very into listening to my dreams. I've always been a prolific dreamer. I've always had people coming to visit me in my dreams. I've had premonition dreams. And this one dream I had, this was years ago, and I found myself in a different dimension. And if you pay attention to your dreams, you can realize when you are dreaming and you are in a different dimension. And some call that lucid dreaming. It's just, there's, I think there are a lot of books on how to lucid dream.
Mhm.
It just, it comes sporadically for me.
Mhm.
But it's happened quite often in my life, and where I recognize that I'm dreaming, and I recognize when I'm in a different dimension. So I was in this different dimension. I was in another dimension, and I was on the banks of this lake, and there was a boardwalk that went straight out into the lake. And then there, halfway out, there was another boardwalk that went off to the left, and there were people swimming and having a good time. and diving into the water. And I'm just standing there watching them. And this woman appears in front of me with a bathing suit and wet hair and looks at me and said, "What are you doing here?" And and so I was, kind of taken aback, and I found myself, um, as I went around the lake, there were some woods, and I walked into this field through some trees. I walked past some trees and into this field, and there was this huge circle in the ground, and there were white stones that outlined this circle. And in the circle was all of this like smoky, swirling smoke. And there were, and in the dream, I instinctively knew there were World War II veterans, all male, standing behind, each one was standing behind one of these white rocks that were
Wow.
painted white. And one by one, they started diving into the center of this swirling smoke. And I knew in the dream that they were sorry, that they were being reincarnated. They were going to a new body and a new physical life.
Had they stayed stuck for many, many years, you think?
No. Um, so the dream continued. I left that area and I walked back over toward the lake, and there was, now I'm not being politically correct here. This is an old term that people don't use anymore, but it's recognizable. There was a tiki bar, and there were people sitting around the bar smoking. They were in their bathing suits. They were smoking and having a good time and talking with one another. And I realized while I was watching them that they were all hanging out together, planning their next life.
Wow.
So the whole dream was I was in this dimension where people were doing their planning. They were creating their design for their next life. And the World War II veterans had already done that, and they were ready to come back. So I'm a definite believer in reincarnation. Absolutely. And animals too. Animals reincarnate.
Can an animal come back? Let me, for example, my dog Guy died, and I found the little one who's right here. He was already 7 or 8 years old, but his spirit, his personality was almost identical. But they had both been alive at the same time. Is it possible that, am I making sense,
Yeah.
that they can take over another animal that's already alive, take over and be the spirit in someone who's already alive?
You're like walking in.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. A walk in.
Um
Can animals walk in?
I don't I'm still really confused about how that process works. I know
Sure.
it's extremely rare for a walk-in. I do believe it's possible. But I think it's extremely rare. The all right, your little one's giving me information.
The one that's right here.
The one you're talking about, is that the one that you the one that had passed,
Yes.
um, came to this one. What's this one's name?
The living one is named Sky, and
Sky.
the one
Okay.
that died was named Guy.
Okay. All
And I
right.
named them almost the same because I wanted a dog that was like that, and that's what I ended up getting.
Okay. All right. So what I'm getting from Sky is that Guy came to Sky because Guy knew that you were going to find Sky.
Him. Okay.
And it was what I'm getting from, I don't know if I'm getting this from Sky or I'm getting this from Guy. No, I'm getting this from Guy. Okay, Guy's coming through. Is that he came to Sky and assured Sky that he was coming to you, that your mother is coming to get you.
Because there were so many weird things about how I got this dog that were connected to Guy, and then the other weird thing is that
okay. Can I interrupt you?
oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. So Guy is saying that um, that Sky is part is part of their whole. Okay, so just like we are only a sliver of who we truly are. So people call it an oversoul. Our oversoul
Right.
is our total self, and our oversoul. We can have. There might be 3 of me in this reality at the same time. I will
Right.
never meet them, but I do know that I have 2 others that are from the same oversoul. So Guy is telling me that Sky is part of their oversoul. So it was not a situation of a walk-in. They're from the same
Oh, that makes
total
sense.
stuff. Okay.
Okay,
And so
that's really
that's,
comforting because I never understood it, but I knew there was something going on.
yeah, I'm getting goosebumps for that. So I know I'm on the right track. So that's why their energy is so similar.
Similar, and that's why.
Yeah.
So animals have oversouls just like humans. I never knew
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And animals, when they reincarnate, they stay it, and they stay in the same species. So dogs may reincarnate as a wolf or a different breed. Um, but they stay in the same species. Cats, could be, a lion or a leopard or whatever, but we reincarnate in, not we, they reincarnate within the same species. So go ahead. All right, that was all
So,
I was
so if
getting
you're an
from
insect and you die, you're going to come back as an insect.
some type.
That's wild. So there's a great comfort in knowing that these animals that we've lost, that
Mm-hmm.
they could come back as part of a group, so they'll feel familiar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's all part of the order of the universe.
Right.
It's all
Yeah.
part of the pattern.
So I have a couple questions for you before we finish up, because I could talk to you for hours. But I have a friend who's a Buddhist monk, and he told me much what you said earlier, that one of the greatest honors of being alive is to be with someone when they take their final breath. That most people have no idea what a huge gift that is.
Yeah.
He also told, and so you've had it happen many times, which is amazing. Most people don't want to have it or they're afraid, but I want them to know after this conversation that if you ever get the chance, take advantage of it because it's a beautiful gift.
Mm-hmm.
So he also told me something that was interesting. He said, and I don't know if you agree with this, he said, when the person dies, stay with them for as long as you possibly can. Just be with them, just sitting with them for like an hour or two if you can. And I wonder if you agree with that, or is that just a Buddhist thing?
I know that when people leave their body, and now it's hard to explain this. Some people are already in whatever dimension that they're going into. They leave enough of their essence in their physical body within the it's I don't like saying within the body, because we are the soul. The
Mm-hmm.
the human body is the creation that the soul, um the soul is not like plunked inside of our body. We are the soul. they l- people will leave just a little bit of their essence so they can experience the last moments of their death, but a major part of their essence is already where they're supposed to be or where they want to be.
Hmm.
Um, it it depends. It's not necessary, in my
Okay.
opinion,
Okay.
to do that. It's comforting. It's comforting for the person.
Person who's left behind.
Yes. And I want people to understand that when you're with someone, when you're with a loved one who has just passed, you have every right to stay there and sit with that person. And you have every right to be there when a CNA comes in or a nurse comes in to wash the body and prepare the body. You are allowed to do that yourself.
Right.
You are also allowed to do that, to be there when the nurse or whomever is taking care of the body. You have every right to be there. And so I think it's more comforting for the people left here,
Right. Okay. That's interesting.
in my
What about
opinion.
cremation and being put in a coffin and buried that way? Do you think it matters?
It might matter to the person who is dying or who has made their wishes known, which is very important. Everyone should have it written down. They call it advanced care planning. And
That was a great thing in your book, by the way, all the details of how to make
Mhm.
sure you know how to plan for. It's going to happen to all of us, so we
Yes,
might as well know how to
yes,
do it. That's why
yes.
your book is very clear guide, and I don't know if there are many books like that out there, but it's
Oh,
wonderful.
there's a
You've
ton.
done it.
There,
Oh,
yeah,
there are,
there,
okay.
yeah, there's a ton. Um, i- it's it's very important that you have an advocate, someone to be your advocate when you can't speak for yourself.
Yeah.
It's important that because things will get crazy within the family, so it's important to have somebody there who's non-judgmental and can kind of guide the family. So
Boy, why is
things
it families always there's always a falling out usually that happens. It's terrible.
uh,
Happens a lot.
it does, it does. It's a lot of times because the person who's dying hasn't made their wishes known, and so
Mhm.
everybody thinks they know best.
Right, because people
Yeah.
don't want to talk about this stuff.
No, no, no. I,
Right.
I've
And
the nurse that I worked with at hospice, she walked in to a family, and I've seen this myself also, uh, stuffing food in their grandfather's mouth, thinking that was going to revive him. And he was
scared.
all he was already, unconscious and breathing rapidly, and it could have caused him to aspirate.
Yeah, I could have choked or whatever.
Yeah. So and people just
I'm sure you've
get
seen the
crazy.
ones left behind have some pretty intense experiences when they lose people they love.
Mhm.
Like it's much
Mhm.
harder to be the one left behind than to be the one who dies,
Yeah.
right? But why is it, Susanna, that most people don't die in an easy way? Why
I
does it
like
have to be so intense? Like, I mean, people who die in their sleep, I don't know what the percentage people who
yeah,
died pleasantly, but I don't think it's
yeah,
high.
yeah. It all for me and through my experiences and my perceptions, it's because of people's beliefs. Now, I'll give you a short example on a woman that I sat vigil for, and at hospice, we were on 4-hour shifts. So I had been with her twice that day. And I was with her for 4 hours in the morning, and then I was with her 4 hours at night when she passed away. It was sometime after 8 o'clock at night. And during the entire day, she was fighting to get out of bed, and nobody could keep her down. They gave her morphine, they gave her um, the anxiety medications and
Mhm.
anti-nausea, and nothing worked. it was like nothing worked. And all she did was fight until about the last 10 minutes. And so, with information that I received after her death, was that she believed that's what she was supposed to do, that she was supposed to fight death.
Oh, okay.
And so people really have to take a look at their belief systems, and they have to really dive in and take a really close look at how you believe. And, like I said, we have free will, and if you dive in and take a look at your beliefs about death and your fears, especially your fears, and take a look at that. Because if you constantly have those thoughts about it's going to be horrible, I'm leaving people behind, and I'm going to be a burden, and all that negative stuff that we feed ourselves, it matters how we think about things.
Well, that's a huge tip for people because my mom always used to say, I just want to die in my sleep. And I said, Mom, very few people are that lucky. And I was trying to tell her, be realistic. And you know what? She managed to die watching TV after having a great night out with all her girlfriends. So she did it. She's proving
Yeah,
exactly what you said.
yeah,
She had it in her mind that that's
yeah,
what she wanted,
yeah,
and that's what happened. And I was obviously the one who I need to work on my attitude around death. Obviously, I see most people not dying terribly well. So I'm going to be like my
yeah,
mom, start
yeah,
saying, no, I'm going to
yeah,
go out love in a lovely way.
yeah.
That's
For
what
about, I would say, probably the last 30 years, I have envisioned myself, and this is just my imagination and creating a scene, and that I'm at a family Thanksgiving dinner. And,
yeah.
I'm with everyone. It's been a good day. I've seen everyone, and I get very tired, and I lie down on the sofa to take a nap, and I die. And
Yay, that's a great, great
so
I'm
I
going to copy
that's
your idea.
that's what I have seen in my mind's eye for 30 years.
So
And
all your relatives and family must be every Thanksgiving getting a little nervous. So,
I haven't told anybody. This is the first time
oh,
I've said
okay.
anything.
Well, don't let them listen to this. They're going to be,
Yep.
wake up.
My secret's safe with you, right?
You're right. Well, we can cut this part out of
No, 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 no,
the
no, no. I want
we'll leave
everybody to
it.
know.
That's hysterical. So listen, how do people get a hold of you if they want to have a reading?
Uh, my website is www.mediumunplugged.com. My email address is sue@mediumunplugged.com.
That's
And my
perfect.
husband and I, Tom, who is a channel, we have a YouTube channel. He has a channel. I have my own channel. I just usually piggyback on, what he posts. He just automatically posts it on mine. And so about once a month, I think it's worked out to be once a month, we put up a video on all kinds of subjects, and the person that speaks through him um, tells people about life and energy and how to create reality. And so my YouTube channel, just search Susanna Massari. My Facebook page is Susanna Massari Medium. I have Instagram, which is Susanna period Massari period Medium.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
I think that's all. I'm not a big social media person.
Well, that's okay. When you're doing the kind of work that you and I are doing, we just have to be focused more on our work and keeping ourselves in a good place so that we can do what
Mhm,
we need to do. If we spent all of our
mhm,
time doing social
mhm.
media, it would not be the best use of our talents, in my
No,
opinion. So
no, not at all.
I totally know that for a fact. Well, listen, my dear, it was so great to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
We'll get this up and introduce people to your amazing work. And I'm sending you lots of love and many thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you too.